And welcome to a truly long brewing episode of Archive Thrifting. So, let me try and explain my way out of this one. The last episode I did, which came out during the between season break, was shot right around the end of last season, late May. And I was just kind of going stir crazy, had to get out, and so I went thrifting. Wasn't planning on shooting an archive thrifting that day, but I just kept finding stuff, so I took out my phone and started shooting away. But what I didn't mention was I actually shot an episode and a half's worth of material. And then life and archive production and my little unintentional technical overhaul around here kind of got in the way, and I largely stopped going thrifting for a while. And when I did, it would be to just like one store and I wouldn't find anything. But so as for today's episode, this is the result of, I guess, 4 months and change worth of sporadic work. So what you're going to see is footage from 4 stores shot in chronological order. And the first two make up that footage, that half an episode's worth of footage I did way back in May. The third store was shot right around the end of July, beginning of August, and the final segment was shot just in the last couple of weeks as of my doing this box segment. So, let's get to it. Starting things out in the boonies today, let's see what they've got. It just wouldn't be archive thrifting without a little Elvis-sploitation. Really overpriced Elvis-sploitation. Between $35 and $40 a pop Elvis-sploitation. Aside from that, we've got a few vintage issues of Hot Rod magazine, not really an interest of mine. Now, I would have been all over these 60s and 70s monster mags, but not at $20 to $40 a pop. I can fleabay these for less than half that. But nonetheless, these are the first ones I have ever seen in person. And for what it's worth, I found a copy of this Planet of the Apes issue on Fleabay for $8. Otherwise, there's a few cheap, old-school, generic comics in here, not interested. And another Famous Monsters, and boy, that one's got a cover. And then woe be to anyone that's ever set foot in McCook County, South Dakota. Talk about desolate. And aside from that, I found some short-run books and manuals and stuff, and more generic comics, and the real gem of that People magazine is learning how Carly Simon overcame her stage fright, and I think has since gotten it back. Now, here's only the second Laserdisc I've encountered since moving here, and I'm pretty sure I could fleabay this dirty, hairy box for less. And I can definitely fleabay a copy of Goodfellas for less than $10. Amongst all the random car stuff is a still-sealed Ford Motors JBL Speakers reference cassette. It doesn't have a track listing on it or anything, and I'd be willing to bet it's just the usual Muzak you find on these automobile audiophile tapes. But at $4, I guess I'll take the gamble. Break It, Break IT, let's see, random capitalization, incomplete punctuation, lousy grammar. See me after class, management. Found an early handheld quasi-Pong game. Of course, it didn't power on, but much to my surprise, the old batteries left in there hadn't exploded. But they wanted $30, and a working one on Fleabay goes for about $20, so no. Now, this was kinda cool. A Fighting Yank walkie-talkie, probably from the late 50s or early 60s. In excellent condition and only $10. But of course, it's only the one walkie-talkie. Oh well, whatever. I've got a ham license and a handheld transceiver already. Nice whip. call me a snob.
Snob!
But I only do later 8mm projectors. Just easier to deal with. Let's see, $32.50. And a new old stock lamp for that thing will probably run you $60 to $70. And of course, the obligatory bag of spent shells. Must be in South Dakota. I swear, I saw this portable TV down in Canton last year. Of course, it doesn't work. It's stupidly overpriced. And, well, I've always wondered just how portable these things really are. Not very. Still on the lookout for a small, working, reasonably priced radio with the Conelrad markers. And the price isn't too bad on this one, but the markers are just the tiny little triangles. Now, it did power up, but the radio didn't work. And yes, I gave it some time because I wasn't sure if it was a tube unit. Due diligence. But yeah, dead. Been starting to see the occasional turntable around here, but everyone so far has been a not-so-great model and overpriced to the point where you could just pretty much buy an equivalent new turntable. And I found this Sanyo cassette deck, which was kind of nice, but I've already got two good and more sophisticated cassette decks. Found another Conelrad radio with more prominent markings, and this one was $45 and dead as a freaking doornail. Handcrafted voltage tester. That doesn't sound scary. Well, let's take a look. Oh man, if I was making a horror movie, I might want this as a prop. As a proper voltage tester, I think I'll pass. Always gotta check out the cameras. And yes, they still have the Apple QuickTake from last year and still clinging to that $95 price point. And I'm still saying no. Amongst the advertising ephemera, I found this little framed advertisement for a speakeasy. Call me an old cynic, but I don't think this is legit. I don't think speakeasies advertised a whole lot, and this ad is in awfully good condition. Gotta admire that attention to detail, though. But if this is legit, let me bestow upon them the Dude You Got Balls award. Now let's check out those liquor prices. Let me see. Chicken cock, $3 for $5. Now that's just highway robbery. Found the world's grungiest box of loose 5 and 7-inch records with an old, still dirty, still crusty, still oily outboard motor leaning on it. But there were a few gems in here, like Joan Crawford Presents Pepsi-Cola's 1960 radio selling team featuring Bob and Ray. And it's a little dirty, but I think I can still play it. Found a couple of cardboard cereal box records, one from Bobby Sherman, and if I ever get to it, I also found one from the Jackson 5, and both of these date to, I think, about 1970 or 71. Now, I've been wanting to do an episode on record booth recordings, but still haven't accrued enough for an episode, and I would have picked this one up, except, I think you can probably figure out why. So close, yet so far. And the haul from this store consists of the Ford Motors JBL speakers reference tape. Didn't see this one on Discogs, so I definitely had to pick it up. Then we've got a little stack of records. We got the Joan Crawford Pepsi disc. Yes, she owned a major stake in Pepsi once upon a time. We've got the 2 cardboard cereal box records, one from the Jackson 5 and one from Bobby Sherman. And speaking of cereal, here's a Snap, Crackle, and Pop Fitness 45. Had to pick that up. And then found off camera a couple of Gilmar Record Club specials for the record ripoffs pile. And on we go to the next store. Okay, Pickers has been completely remodeled and overhauled since we were here last. Let's see if the pick-ins have been overhauled. Right out of the gate, amongst your deceased grandparents' dishes, I found my first ever stash of non-pornographic 8mm films in the wild. For $5 a piece, ain't gonna beat that on Fleabay, we've got an Abbott and Costello, a
Woody Woodpecker!
another Abbott and Costello, and 2 copies of the same Zippy the Chimp reel. Duplicate Zippy reel notwithstanding, I took the whole lot. Believe it or not, in grade school, early mid-90s, my gym teacher still used an old Caliphone turntable like this one for the dreaded Square Dance Week. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the scars from Square Dance Week haven't yet healed, and I passed. Really nice to see one of these things in such good shape, though, and you gotta love any turntable made by an air conditioning company. Now, I thought I would just show this one since I was here. This has been sitting here since I moved in. This is a Dictabelt machine, which is an early dictation device. This model is tube-driven, it is in dreadful shape, and unsurprisingly is deader than a doornail. These things record onto plastic belts, kind of like a wax cylinder, and the belt that was left on there, probably no later than the late 70s, is shredded and rotten. But there are examples of working Dictabelts on YouTube, so definitely check those out. And the haul for this store consists of a stack of 8mm films, Zippy the Chimp's Beach Adventure, Woody Woodpecker in Termites from Mars. Then we've got Abbott and Costello in Foreign Legion, and another Abbott and Costello, which is Rocket and Roll. And to put things in perspective, these things sold for just shy of $6, probably in the late 50s, just so you know how good we've got it. Then we've got this record ripoffs candidate, found off camera, Disco Fever. Got an update here. This store has a nice record selection, but a hideously overpriced one, with a cashier that watches it like a hawk. But I went back over Labor Day weekend, so 3 months plus after the main segment you just saw, and the LPs were half off. So I snagged this near mint, probably first pressing of God Bless Tiny Tim for $8.50. God bless Tiny Tim indeed. Fast forwarding a couple of months, and we're on to my usually not so lucky store, Savers. Always gotta hit the CDs. And today we've got one of a few REM CD singles, and I like REM as much as the next guy, but I can't say I want to dig that deep with them. Already got Led Zeppelin 2 on vinyl and CD. Now, this is one of only a few Joe Walsh albums I don't have, Ordinary Average Guy, so I picked that up. Now, if you want a near guarantee that I won't buy 45s from you, just stick your damn gooey price tag on the record itself. And there were some good ones here, like this Rolling Stones 45. Overpriced and in not so hot condition, and of course the whole sticker thing. But in addition to that, we've got, well, more Rolling Stones, and that's a copy of Satisfaction, that's just the B-side, in dreadful condition and way overpriced. And of course, say it with me, I found my usual, hold your breath, Elvis. Always gotta have the Elvis, and in terrible condition, and $4. Now, this is one tricked out black box, complete with a decent audio mixer, and the price was right. But then I remembered I hate having to deal with black boxes. Hey, I used to have this same VHS rewinder. Mine died on me and I threw it out, and I've since acquired a new old stock Kinyo model similar to that Zenith. Then we've got a CB radio that formerly lived in somebody's car. And as great a story as it would be, the Oddity archive guy just doesn't want a CB radio in his car. And speaking of the Oddity archive guy, he needs to get his hand out of the shot. Now, I've never seen an automatic redialer, no idea how it works, but it seems like a good way to annoy people. And I've seen things from Caliphone before, like turntables and tape decks, but I have absolutely no idea what this is. But I'm sure someone in the peanut gallery will tell me. Oh god, I used to have to haul these things around and hook them up and hang them from the ceiling all the time. Having said that, part of me would love to have these, so when my neighbors get obnoxious, I can blast Frank Zappa at devastating levels out my window. Now, I wanted this mixer, and I totally would have bought it. $50 for something like this is nothing. But I think you'll see why I wound up having to pass on it. Alright, the moment of truth. Let's plug it in, make sure the power strip's on, and nothing. Deader than a doornail. Didn't matter what I did. Which begs the question, did somebody somehow manage to blow out this thing? That's not an easy thing to do. Damn it. And the disappointing haul from this store consists of 2 CDs, Joe Walsh's Ordinary Average Guy and Led Zeppelin 3, found off camera. I've got plenty of Zeppelin, but somehow I've never managed to pick this one up. Onward we go to my favorite Goodwill. You know, this shot just ain't working. I think I parked too far away. Yeah, that'll work. Right at the top of the LPs is one of my all-time favorite albums, but I got plenty of copies of it. Otherwise, these school band and choir albums always seem to be really dull. Now, ELO fans will probably hate me for this, but I did not pick up this Joyride soundtrack because, as far as I could tell, all the songs came from existing albums. Then we've got Head East's Flat as a Pancake. Never been any reason for me to pick that one up. Electric Company, from that rodent company that must not be named. Now, this looked slightly dubious at first. Supposedly a bunch of early sound recordings of various famous people. The back cover is blank. But upon further inspection, it actually looks legit. Had to pick it up just to confirm it, though. And at 75 cents, why not? There were some good records today. I wound up picking up this copy of Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On, which I've actually never owned. There were a couple of Hall & Oates LPs, Bigger Than the Both of Us, and my favorite of theirs, Abandoned Luncheonette. Also Billy Joel's The Stranger, already have it. And it kind of looks like old Ray is taking a leak in the river there, doesn't it? Found a translucent red Enoch Light 45. Never been a fan, but I've also never owned any red vinyl, strangely enough. So I picked it up as a pseudo-archivism. Speaking of vinyl, I found this decrepit Montgomery Ward unit, which was apparently buried in the backyard. It was missing the stylus, not the housing, but just the needle proper. And I also can't say that I have ever seen a 45 stacker in person. And almost as if it were divine intervention, sitting next to the turntable was a 45 of one of our favorite conservative folk singers, Staff Sergeant Barry Sadler, and his biggie, The Ballad of the Green Berets. This pair of Kenwood speakers was almost tempting, but they're too big for either of my regular stereo setups, and $60 for Goodwill speakers was just a little high as far as I was concerned. Try me again when they're Nakamichis. Down on the floor was a Yamaha home theater receiver, no DTS, $40, and I'm perfectly happy with my Pioneer anyway. Well, given the case design, it's either something really cool or really boring. It's a Lucor reel-to-reel deck. I've actually been looking for a small reel-to-reel to use when I need to do moldy tape duty. I've got a couple of moldy tapes right now, and I'd really rather not use my good TIAC for that. So let's hook this baby up and see if she comes alive. So let's open up the side here, and we've got a vintage mic. I might be able to use that. Beneath that, we've got a pair of alligator clips, I guess to hook up to a large battery. And deep down in there, we got the power cord. So let's give this a shot. And sure enough, it comes alive. Sorta. I can make the forward direction work, but not the reverse. That tells me it might need belts. But you know what? At $8, I'll pick it up anyway. If nothing else, I'll get a neat little microphone and a pair of alligator clips to stick to my nipples out of the deal. Did I really just say that? Scratch that. Over in the kitty clothes / toy department, I hate that mix, I hit the trifecta of VHS board game cheese. Nightmare and 2 of its 3 expansion games. I've already got the original Nightmare, but I don't have any of the expansions. And sure enough, the tapes are intact / in good shape and everything looks complete. And at $5 a piece, that is a definite yes. And the haul from this store consists of the Fixer Upper Lucor reel-to-reel deck. We've got the Nightmare 2 and 3 VHS games. Now all I need is Nightmare 4 and we might have an episode on our hands. I picked up the Translucent Red Enoch Light EP. I picked up a 45 from the probably local Johnson brothers, not to be confused with the brothers Johnson. I found a Learn to Play Guitar 45. Got a few of these, but not enough good ones for an episode yet. And I picked up Hall & Oates' Abandoned Luncheonette. I picked up Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. And, of course, I picked up that History Speaks disc. And the final haul for this episode consists of the Nightmare 2 and 3 VHS game expansion packs. Now the hunt is on for Volume 4. We've got the hopefully eventual moldy reel-to-reel tape cleaning rig, if nothing else the vintage microphone and alligator clips that came with it. We have got 6, 5, and 7-inch records, namely the 2 Gilmar Record Club discs, now residing in the Record Ripoffs candidate pile, the Joan Crawford Pepsi disc, featuring David Brinkley and Bob and Ray. We've got the 2 cardboard cereal box discs, featuring the Jackson 5 and that oh-so-dreamy Bobby Sherman. And we have got the Snap, Crackle, and Pop Fitness disc from 1983. Then we've got ourselves 4 8mm films, all in excellent condition. 2 from Abbott and Costello, 1 from Woody Woodpecker, and 1 from Zippy the Chimp. In addition to that, we have got 2 CDs from Led Zeppelin and Joe Walsh. Then we've got a probably first pressing copy of Tiny Tim's Immortal, God Bless Tiny Tim. We've got the Ford Motors JBL speakers reference cassette, still sealed, still haven't listened to it. Then we have got the Disco Fever Record Ripoffs candidate. We got the Enoch Light EP, a Johnson Brothers 45, again, not to be confused with the Brothers Johnson. Then we've got a Sears Guitar Tutorial 45, missing the booklet. I missed that part. Representing the LPs, we've got History Speaks Volume 2, which appears to be legit. We've got Hall & Oates' second album, Abandoned Luncheonette. And last but not least, Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On. And the cost of this episode's junk came out to $50. Just about on the button. And that's it for today. I'll talk to you again soon.